I think I make people feel love, and I do that by asking good questions and listening to them. I also don't expect anything from them. And so if someone doesn't answer a text back or doesn't call me back, or like there's something in me where it just, I don't take any offense to it. You can't control someone's happiness. You know, everyone's like so concerned about making our employees happy.
Right.
What we can control is their excitement. And it's very rare. And so now I broker on excitement. I broker on inspiration. My currency is inspiration. I go to work every day trying to get inspired, not necessarily trying to make money.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 10 of the Success Series. I'm your host, David Berg, and I'm here alongside our co-host, Michael Konowski, and our guest of today is Adam Greenfield. Adam, pleasure having you on today. Adam has a great story. He's from Brooklyn, New York initially, now lives in Venice, California. We're actually at his residence here in near Santa Monica. Adam is a multiple-time founder. His most recent and well-known company is Thesis, the world's first nootropics brands. Very successful. You can find them anywhere online, whether it's via social, their website. Product is readily available and it helps, so I highly recommend checking it out. Adam, we look forward to hearing more about your story and would love for you to kick it off and share the...
Cool, dude. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm honored that you felt that I might be able to bring something. So I actually originally grew up in upstate New York, a little town about an hour north of the city. I'd say one interesting part about me as a child is like I was obsessed with superheroes, but not in the way where I would like look at a superhero and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I would look at a superhero and be like, how do I figure out how to do that? That led me into being like, well, you know, from a very young age, like how do I become super strong? And so I remember like, well, actually, it started with how do I learn how to fight? So I would like see them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was like, I can do that. And so I remember having my mom enter me into karate when I was like 5 or 6.
Right.
And by the time I was 12, I was second-degree black belt and traveling all over, and I got obsessed. And then later on, shortly thereafter, it was like, how do I become incredibly strong? And so like, you know, 8th grade, I'm like in the gym, like obsessed, lifting, squatting, like, and so by the time I was even like a senior in high school, you know, I was really strong. And then as I got older in college and specifically after college, it was like more around my brain and my consciousness and like, was I able to bend reality with my brain, with my mind? And was I able to, like, was ESP real? Like, and so I think that was, that obsession with becoming the superhero is not only what led me to like going super deep into spirituality, but also going super deep into a lot of this like brain and neuro hacking that led to Thesis. And this like curiosity about how powerful is the human brain? What is it truly capable of? How fast can it be? How smart can I get? How focused can I be? Mm-hmm. And, you know, the more the origin story on Thesis and, you know, full transparency, I spent all of my 20s working for the NBA team, the Brooklyn Nets. I left when I was 30. I went and backpacked in Asia for 6 months and then came back and kind of like sunk myself into the world of like venture-backed startups and started a bunch of companies. They all failed.
Wow. How many?
4.
Wow.
Until Thesis. And I think that there was like a lot of things that I figured out by that time, both like very practical ways of building companies, but also like infusing spirituality and like understanding intention and passion and understanding like building something that is actually going to make the world a better place to live in. Right. And even if you look at the way that we hired people, the way that we trained people, the way that we developed people, the way that we worked with investors, it all had very deep spiritual underpinnings to it. Yeah.
Oftentimes, that's incredible. We're going to have to break that down for sure. The Asia story, the multiple failures and ultimately a success. But usually it starts at the childhood and how people were raised are a big impact on their professional career. What was your family dynamic like growing up? Are you an only child? Did you have siblings? If you could just kind of guide us through that.
Totally. Complete unfair advantage. I was raised by angels, as you guys were as well. Like deeply spiritual parents who went to the Kabbalah Center, who brought me to the Kabbalah Center, who were, it was so funny. I talk about this all the time. It's like where most kids, they grow up and like Billy Joel of the Rolling Stones is playing in the background. Like in my house, it was like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra.
That's incredible.
So it was just like bookshelves filled with self-development stuff. Obviously, the Rob's stuff, but honestly, like growing up, I really didn't resonate with Kabbalah much. My parents found the center when I was maybe like 16, 17, and I kind of had a big aversion to it.
Sure.
It wasn't until like I was in my 20s, they had kind of stepped away a little bit, and then I was able to choose it on my own that I like really found my path. But like, think about like Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and E-Myth and all of like this was the topic of conversation at the dinner table every night.
Wow.
And my mom, anytime anything went wrong, was just like, thank you, God. Thank you for giving me this challenge. And like this was like her default.
Right.
And she was
so unheard of.
She was so certain. And so I do have a little bit of unfair advantage. Now it's funny because my sister is wonderful, but she like doesn't really resonate with much of this stuff.
Right. Is she spiritual by nature?
I think she's spiritual. I wouldn't say like she found the path and found the teacher and has like this regimented thing and this, but I think like the way that she looks at the world is through a lot of love, and she understands like energies, and she understands like there are multiple forces at play that we can't necessarily sense with our five senses, but have a massive impact on our happiness. And
it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
It's very love. I feel like love and spirituality is literally what it is.
Yeah. So I give her credit for that.
Very cool. And then, so when you were growing up as a young child, early teenager, was there always an aspiration? I know you wanted to be a superhero, but did that ever format into being an entrepreneur, or did you think you were going to work for somebody else?
I think I always knew I wasn't going to be a superhero. I thought I could have superheroes.
What was your favorite superhero, by the way, and really inspired you? Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
Superman and the Ninja Turtles.
And the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Nice. So also the cape, flying, right? That's also,
it was just like super smart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good looking.
Totally. I definitely wanted to be. I definitely wanted to be good looking.
You got it.
Good looking. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. It like wasn't cool to be a founder yet.
Really?
Like when you guys grew up, it was like, Zuckerberg's my age. We went to college. We're the exact same age. Went to college the same year, and so like, no, I wanted to be. I wanted to be a baseball player, and then I wanted to be a sportscaster. I wanted to be a sportscaster all the way until I went to college, and then in college, I just wanted to have money, and so that took me into sales, and I did sales for 10 years. My first.
And that was for the Nets.
It was the Nets for 7 years, and then there was a year afterward where I took another sale, like I did sales at a venture-backed business.
Okay. And then when you're working for the Nets, is that as glamorous as it sounds? Are you exposed to the teams? Are you going to the games?
Of course it's not.
It sounds nice saying you work for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I know. It's never that sexy.
Run us through what did that look like? What did your 9 to 5 look like when you were?
Oh my God. So when I started working for the Nets, I was literally a boiler room sales guy.
Really?
Like lists of numbers,
Yep.
phone calls. Like I'm 23 years old. I'm just calling everyone. Back then we were still in New Jersey. I'm just calling anyone I can, trying to get them to come to a game. But it like
Black coffee all day.
yes.
In a room, a dark room.
Dude, no windows in this room, drop ceilings, neon lights,
Yeah.
or whatever, fluorescent lights.
It's the start of a horror movie, right? You can
Dude.
still visualize it today.
It's completely. But like, like they had their process, and it was like built like all these organizations where, you kind of wanted to continue to get these little improvements. And, I really, there were great guys around me. I still revere the guys that I worked for there, my direct bosses. I learned so much from, and they were incredible guys. The only people that make money in sports are the players.
Everybody else is just part of the ride.
Maybe the agents.
Right. Everybody else is scraping.
Everyone else is scraping. Like all these teams run at massive deficits.
Really?
I mean, think about it, right? Like, I don't want to quote numbers but like, if you make $20 million a year from all ticket sales total, from the entire season, $20 million, it's not even one person's salary. Not even.
Is that considered good? Is like what?
Yeah, that's
20 million is around where it is.
yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. and then maybe another 10, 15 million from sponsorships. So
Sure.
like revenue.
You're paying for your star player, and the rest of the team is at a deficit.
Yeah, these teams, and so like guys like my first salary I think was 27. Then I got a promotion to 35.
That was 15 years. So that's
that was 2007,
that's
2008.
That's like 50, 60,000 today, right? Something like
Maybe
that.
Maybe that.
Yeah. Okay, so it's funny. Most of the founders we've spoken with thus far have started in sales to one degree or another. Our last episode, he actually said that the only reason why he became a founder was because he knew he was good at sales. Mm-hmm. Is that the same story for you? Did that tie into your process of becoming a founder? The fact that you were a sales guy first?
I'm a sales guy, and thus the things that I do as a founder. I mean, it helps so much.
In what areas?
Okay, so as a founder, all right. So there's as a founder, and then there's as a CEO. So there's slightly different job descriptions, but so as a founder, like the only thing I need to do is get really clear on my vision and enroll people in your vision. You're enrolling service providers, you're enrolling customers, you're enrolling partners, influencers in your vision, you're enrolling employees in your vision. All I do is sell every day,
Really?
all day.
Even to this day?
It's everything. Yeah, even my new company.
Yeah.
If you look at what I'm doing, it's, I'm hiring people, we're bringing in new clients, I'm motivating the team that I already have. Now I take on a little bit more of a creative role, but that's just because I want to, not because I have to. Yeah, I'm probably the least creative person at our company.
Really? And you're pretty creative.
You're very creative.
That's saying a lot.
I'm pretty creative.
Yeah.
Everything now is selling, whether it's, early stage, a founder needs to get investment, which is all sales, needs to build a product, but like if they're not technical, they need to enroll other people, generally really highly qualified product developers, whether it's software, and we'll take software for example.
Sure.
So like you need to find really talented engineers to like build your V1 of your product for you, or you need to like recruit a technical co-founder. It's all sales. It's like the most valuable skill that I have, hands down. And it will always be. And even look at like some of the stuff I do on my personal life, right? Like getting big groups together and hosting events and like all the things that I understood about human psychology and making people feel warm and welcome and loved and seen. The most valuable skill I think I have as a human being is my ability to ask questions, which is direct sales training.
Right.
Right? So for me, in the way that, but like you could interview someone who's more creative, or you could interview someone who's, more operational minded. Sure. And like, those are the roles that they take on as founder. And then CEO, especially like the way that kind of like Y Combinator will define like the role of a CEO, it's to set vision, hire great people, delegate to them, and make sure the company is well capitalized. It's like those three.
Those are the three pillars.
Okay. And so two of them are sales.
Right. Bring in the right people.
And vision is a little bit of creativity, but a lot of what vision is articulated through research. You have to know what the problem is so deeply, and you need to understand like what is possible in this world to like really set like the vision for a company.
Right. In
my opinion, and I learned a lot of research skills through sales.
Really? Just through the process of understanding people.
Yeah, like prospecting.
Yeah.
Like constantly reading like industry periodical or like industry news, and like trying to figure out who's doing what, and like, what company just signed a massive deal that like I can like
leverage there.
Yeah, write them a little note and be like, hey, we should chat.
Right.
Shit like that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned college before. A lot of our guys hadn't finished college, and girls that we've interviewed, did you stick out the whole 4 years?
I did the whole 4 years.
Do you feel it was worthwhile at any point in your career? Did you look back and say, thanks, I went to college for that and it helped me here?
I wouldn't send my kid to college.
Really? Point blank?
No.
Wow.
I would, if he or she gets into Harvard, Yale, or an Ivy, or Stanford, I'll pay for it.
Sure.
Other than that, I would, again, I don't have a wife,
right?
And I haven't confirmed this, but this is my vision. I earmark $150,000, and I say, here's $50,000. Go backpack for a year. You have $50,000, which will get them very far, especially if they know how to travel. You'll come back, you'll have $100,000, and you're going to start a company. And I'm going to like take you through like an accelerator program.
Sure.
And you're going to touch every part. And so you're going to run that for a year, and you have $100,000 to invest however you want. And by the end of that year and a half, 2 years, you would have had touched so many parts of the business: legal, finance, marketing, hiring, logistics, supply chain, all of these different parts where for certain, like, here's where I want to play more. Yeah, I loved writing copy on the website. Oh, maybe you're a writer. I loved making videos for marketing. Okay, maybe you're a production person. Yeah, marketer. I loved like doing all the legal compliance stuff. Okay, so maybe legal. I loved balancing the books. Great, maybe you're in finance. Or they're just like, I really like being a founder.
Right.
But I learned more in the first 6 months starting a company, maybe even 3 months starting a company, than I did in the 4 years in college. And then I learned more 6 months traveling. There's been 2 times where I've like done long swaths of traveling. One was study abroad in my senior year in college, and the other was this like long 6-month backpack trip between careers. And vulnerability. Vulnerability. And you are out there in an area where you just have no idea what's you don't speak the language. You're sleeping in a foreign place. You're at a hostel. It's hot. You're in the jungle. You're moving around. You're meeting all of these people so quickly from all over the world. You're observing, ingesting. You're walking around. You're just seeing. Your brain is being expanded and exposed to things so far outside of its comfort zone, and you have freedom to listen to your intuition and say, I would wake up in the morning and be like, I want to go to this country today. I'd jump on Skyscanner, I'd buy a ticket. By 6 o'clock that night, I'd be on a plane. And it's the combination of all of those, plus the agency, plus the ability to be like, I want to do this, exit, and then do it. and then see where that leads you. And doing it in this way where it was like unplanned, fly by the seat of your pants, everything, all of the belongings you have fit in a backpack on your back, you know, kind of like in and out of the hostel game, I think what is very, very valuable.
Has it helped you in your business? Did you get some ideas for thesis ultimately from your traveling in Asia?
I mean, I think the greatest lesson that I learned in Asia, which completely led to me becoming a founder, was this deep feeling and embodiment of my ability to change the world. So I'll give, like, I can pinpoint the exact moment that it happened. Everywhere that I went when I was in Asia, I volunteered. I hate being alone. And I said, because I learned from the Kabbalah Center, like, the best way to connect with people is through sharing. The best way to connect with the light is sharing. And so I was like, everywhere that I go, I'm going to ensure that I'm being of service, and I trust, and I'm certain that that will make sure that I'm never alone if I'm always of service. So everywhere I went, I seeked out a volunteer opportunity. So I was in Thailand, and I had found this orphanage. It was about 3.5 hours north of Bangkok in this little town called Singbori. And when I showed up the first day, they were doing construction. They were building these cement walls because the rainy season was coming. And so, you know, I have no construction background. I'm a Jewish kid from upstate New York. Yeah. Like, my dad hired someone to do everything.
Right.
But I got in there, and I'm, you know, like, kind of like carrying bricks and laying grout or whatever it is. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, like, why don't we do it like a completely different way? And all those dudes looked at me and they were like, well, you know, there's a guy from New York, maybe successful.
He knows a bit more.
And these guys completely ignored 30 years of construction background
to listen to you,
to listen to me, and changed everything.
Wow.
And all of a sudden I realized how powerful I am. And everywhere else I went, I realized, like, the influence that we have as Americans, educated, experienced Americans, blew my mind. And I noticed right then and there, I was like, I truly have the ability to impact the entire world. And it went from, like, just saying it, like, we're going to build a global company, I'm going to change the world, to being like, oh, that's how it goes.
Right.
And so, like, just got planted in my brain. And so once I got back and then started to discover the world of, you know, venture-backed businesses and scalable tech, you realize, like, you can build a product and tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions of people can use it and find out about it. And it was, you know, it was like middle 2010s, and, you know, everything was being disrupted by some type of scalable technology. And that was, and even so, it was just like, that is why we started Thesis. That is why I was so obsessed with starting Thesis, was just like, you know, the impact, the way that the world will look when everyone has 20% more access to their brain, or 15% more focus throughout the day. I could see very quickly, you know, you give a judge 20% more focus, and how many more innocent people stay out of jail.
Right.
You give a doctor 20% more focus, 30% more focus or energy, how many more people can they save? You give a special ed teacher like 20% more focus, how many more children can they help? And then how many more of their parents can now breathe for a second because they know. And, like, those are all examples of real customers who, like, wrote to us being like,
really,
I am a judge,
stories.
I am a doctor, I am a legislator, I am a special ed teacher.
Can you tell us a little bit about what nootropics is?
Yeah.
How it works, the science, as nitty-gritty as you can about it.
Yeah. So nootropics are basically nutrients that make your brain work better. A lot of times, one's inability to focus, stay energized, be creative, problem solve, find the right words, not procrastinate, is not a personality trait. It is an imbalance in chemicals in your brain. And once those chemicals are either replenished or kind of treated in the proper way, given the right environment to operate in, that's when you see massive increases in focus. And so they're called neurotransmitters, these chemicals, for the most part. There's also, and so basically what nootropics are is they are nutrients. There's thousands of them. And they kind of exist on a spectrum that some are natural, some are man-made, that have a direct impact on the neurotransmitters in your brain, which are the chemicals in your brain that allow you to think fast, come up with new ideas, process information quicker, channel the right words, stay energized, stay focused. And so the nootropics work on what researchers believe is like one of 5 things. Either they increase the amount of the neurotransmitter, they prevent the reuptake of neurotransmitters. So do you want me to go really scientific?
I do. Okay. People are technical that listen to this, and so I think they'll appreciate the details of it.
So basically, the way I explain it is like the cells in your brain, neurons, don't actually touch. They have these tentacles, and they get really, really close, but like there's this space between them called the synapse. And what's happening trillions of times a second is these neurotransmitters are getting pushed out of one, and they're living for a microsecond in the synapse, and then being uptaken by the next. And and they're literally happening trillions of times a second.
Wow, it's all happening in the mind.
All the time.
Wow.
Constantly, trillions of times. And basically what ends up happening is, this neuron will spit out 100 neurotransmitters, whether they're the ones that are like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin is one, norepinephrine is one, GABA is one, acetylcholine is one. And they'll get spit out, and then they'll get taken up by this side. Now, not all of them get taken up by this side. And then what ends up happening is whatever is left in the synapse will get washed away.
Okay.
And so there are certain nootropics, like Adderall works like this, where it prevents the reuptake of the neurotransmitters. So in the Adderall's case, dopamine gets pushed out, dopamine gets received, and then all the extra dopamine would normally get washed away, but sits there, and then the next time this guy accepts it, there's so much more available.
So it's an additional dose.
Yeah, it's kind of like those additional doses.
Why do you crash with Adderall?
Because it's because you go through all of it.
Oh, so all the dopamine's been.
I mean, so the reason the brain, is that I'm not as technically savvy on why, like the mechanisms on Adderall specifically and the crash. I do know Adderall is very neurotoxic. I experienced for many years the crash of Adderall and the crash of Ritalin and the crash of Vyvanse.
What are the guarantees or what are the promises of nootropics for one who suffers with attention disorder or anything of that sort?
Yeah, so nootropics don't cure. We can't say like it cures a disease.
Sure.
I think what it does, and they don't work for everybody. They don't work for everybody.
Okay.
I think I got very lucky that they worked really well for me. And on average with thesis, about 85% of the people that try thesis it works for.
It's pretty good.
Which is really, really great.
Yeah.
And it makes for a very healthy business when 85% of your customers
And experience the
are
benefits.
happy and want to buy it again.
Was there one particular thing that happened in your past that made you want to do this pill and this medicine that helped you?
Yeah, there was a moment in 2016. I was working on another company. It was a fashion company with a dear mentor of mine.
What was the brand?
It was called Cabana at the time. And I was working for a guy who I revere and love and learned so much from. But I had taken on a lot of responsibility, and he'd given me a lot of responsibility, more responsibility than I should have had, and more responsibility than I was ready for. I was deeply underqualified for this job. And because I loved him so much and looked up to him so much, I was forcing myself to try to be successful as this head of operations of this fashion company. And I was drowning. I was underwater. I was handing in projects late. I was forgetting things. It was a lot of, I was making a lot of promises and not delivering on them. And in complete, desperation, I ended up calling a buddy of mine, who was a serial founder. And I was just like, dude, I'm working 18 hours a day. I keep failing over and over again. I'm really letting them down. I need help. And so he comes in and he observes me for a day, and he goes, listen, strategically, I don't think you're doing that much wrong.
Sure.
I think the problem is you can't focus on any one thing long enough to complete it. He's like, you're here and then you're there. You're like a monkey jumping around the office. No wonder why you can't hand anything in. You have 55 projects going on, and
right.
You're just,
from tap to tap to tap, the phone call to, right.
Yeah. This opportunity, that opportunity.
Right. You're yeah.
And he's like, I don't think you need strategy. I think you need focus. And he's like, have you ever tried nootropics before? And I'd really never heard of nootropics prior to that, but he gave it to me. And that was on a Friday. And so I took the Monday morning. I went to the gym. At that point, I was training competitive CrossFit. So it was 6 a.m., but getting after it. And I remember,
for our audience, what were you lifting at the time? What was your pullover press, or what was your?
It was I was probably clean and jerk 275, benching 335, squatting 415.
Jeez. Okay, so you were in it.
I was strong.
Yeah. I mean, are you still lifting at that level?
No.
You moved to Venice, you picked up surfing.
Yeah. I'm living in Venice, I'm surfing. 2 herniated discs later. I don't even pick up a barbell anymore.
Really?
Dumbbell only. I work out at a place now that's specifically for people with sports injuries. I'm yeah.
We won't call it an old age home. But
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I remember training that morning and just feeling like I was wearing horse blinders. I was so focused. I was so efficient. All of the other clatter, I couldn't hear anything except the barbell hitting the floor. And I remember going in on that Monday morning, and normally we would do first thing Monday morning, we do a planning meeting for the week. Normally I would go in at 9, and that meeting would last until 11:30, 12, because we would open up the floor. This day, I remember walking out 35 minutes later because I was just so focused. Boom, next thing. I wasn't getting off. And then for the rest of the day, I was just so locked in. Again, I felt like I just had horse blinders on. Everything had quieted. It was only the project that was right in front of me. And then the most measurable difference that I felt with nootropics, which really kind of was holy shit, why doesn't the whole world know about these things, was, at that point I think I had 7 or 8 direct reports. And we had a culture in our office of got-a-minute meetings. They'd come into my office, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And normally, if I'm doing deep work and someone would pull me out, it would take me like 15, 20 minutes to recalibrate back into deep work. On nootropics, I would be able to go back to deep work in 2 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. And so at an average of like 10 got-a-minute meetings a day, it was saving me like
150 minutes.
Yeah.
Like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So I was like literally getting 2.5 hours back.
It's incredible.
It was incredible.
And there was no large-scale nootropics. This was just a buddy of yours who recommended it, worked for him, and
Yeah.
then the light bulb went off. Okay, there's a business here. It worked for me.
Totally. Yeah, it was just like, why doesn't the whole world know about this?
Right.
Like, if it does this to me, like, holy shit. I was like, are these safe? Are these legal? Like, what?
How is not everybody using this now? Must have been the thought, right?
How is not everyone using it?
How many years of building nootropics before it was ready to be launched as a product?
Recommendation engine that was able to help predict what you should be taking. So that trial took 2 years, from the beginning of 2017 to the end of 2018. And then we launched, originally we were called Formula.
Okay.
We launched in May of 2019. And then we went through an accelerator. We really figured out growth and like marketing towards the end of 2019. Pandemic hit. It was awesome.
It was the greatest thing for the business, right?
The greatest thing for the business. Growth went like this.
Sure.
We, 100% online in a moment where everyone's stuck inside and still has jobs, and
had the distraction of the kids in the house, and the wife, and
totally. And then, all the acquisition costs on Facebook went down.
Yeah.
And so we became really, really good, like Facebook marketers and acquisition marketers.
And now you guys are what, number 12 fastest growing company in the world? Is that?
Yeah, we were 12 on the Inc. 5000 list.
Yeah, which is
really humbling.
You touched on it briefly, but there was 4 failed companies.
Yeah.
I'm all about, that's my personality too, just keep going. But after 4th company not working, wasn't there a moment where you're like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'll go back, I'll be the head of operations, I'll be the head of sales. Where did that internal drive come from?
I just thought it would be really fun. And I kept getting better. Every time I did a company, like I was just better at being a founder. And each company I was getting further and further and further, and I was seeing all of the things. I have a really high, so there's a couple things. One is I'm a very simple man in terms of like my lifestyle. I don't need a lot. I don't spend a lot of money. I deeply enjoy working. And that was the other thing. It was actually one of our friends from the Kabbalah Center who always used to tell me, you can work a job you hate, make a lot of money, and then eventually do what you like want to do.
Sure.
Or you can like just do what you want to do. Like just skip the whole like I need to make a lot of money and then I'll be happy.
Right.
And it's just like, well, what if I could just do something that I would do for free anyway and see if I can make money at it? And, starting companies, honestly, for me is like very gamified.
Really?
Yeah.
You enjoy it?
Yeah.
What do you enjoy about it?
I love it.
Really? The whole, even when it's painful and the money's not being raised and...
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I do. Because if you're selling like for me, it's like, it's all around like, are you selling a product that makes the world a better place to live? The greatest business lesson I ever learned was from Eitan Yardeni. And I remember, I can remember exactly where I was when he said this. And he was like, he was talking about business. It was in one of these business classes. And he was like, you can control someone's happiness. Everyone's like so concerned about making our employees happy.
Right.
What we can control is their excitement. And it's very rare. And so now I broker on excitement. I broker on inspiration. My currency is inspiration. I go to work every day trying to get inspired, not necessarily trying to make money. Because I know if I'm inspired,
the money will follow.
Fucking luck keeping me down.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm inspired,
everything
I'm gonna
else?
be creative. I'm going to do it. And I have access, if I really wanted, to anybody.
Sure.
If I had a great product that I know changes the world, and I can access anyone. I can access the greatest investors, I can access the greatest CEOs, I can access the greatest engineers. Like if I'm inspired, like 100%. And I know it. And like they're, and just when I have it, I'll have it,
Right.
And so, so what Eitan said is like, we're brokering on excitement. And so there's an equation that leads into excitement. And it's when you add someone's deep feeling that they are impacting either the world or someone outside of themselves, meaning that they feel like what they do makes other people's lives better, whether it's like on a massive global scale or even like the 4 people that work around them, plus constant improvement. So what you're doing making the world or people around you easier to live in, plus are you leaving every day improving on something? And that is a promise that I have made to every single person that we've hired, that I've hired since then, and it works 100% of the time. It has never failed me. And that is exactly how I look at my life too. I was like, the only inputs that I need to ensure I'm giving myself every day is time and space to learn, and only working on things that I know make the world a better place.
We've heard that side of it. We've heard the professional side, a bit of the personal. What does Adam Greenfield do for fun? Yeah. And I know you enjoy your work, so that might be a redundant question.
No, I mean,
what else do you do?
Well, I love, since moving to LA, I definitely have a really good relationship with the ocean. So surfing a lot. I have a great little crew out here, guys from Kabbalah Center and some others. And we surf once, twice a week,
Nice.
which I love. Go to Burning Man every year.
Yep.
It's a massive, massive part of my life, and has made a enormous change on who I believe I am and how comfortable I am with myself, and how okay I am being my most authentic, weird version of me. And I think other people are inspired by it as well. I know my parents are.
If someone's on the fence about going to Burning Man, and a lot of their friends do, what would you tell them to expect from going there?
I marvel at how big human creativity can be. And there you see it. You see the costumes and the structures and these encampments and how much detail and time and energy goes into just building the infrastructure. And then the art cars and the music and the art installations. It is like, holy shit, human beings can do this. And towed it out to the middle of the desert, and they're willing to pay for that. It's almost hard to believe that a place where people are so nice and so loving and so caring and just so open and unapologetic,
right,
and weird exists. I didn't even know human beings were capable of how they show up at that festival every year. I say it like this, I truly believe it, like, God willing, there isn't a year that I can't go.
Wow. It's that important in your life. It's made that big of a difference.
I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
The year I started thesis, summer 2019, my parents came into the city. I was living in New York. We're having lunch. My mom goes, hey, what about Burning Man this year? I was like, Mom, I sunk a bunch of money. I'm not taking any money out of the business. Sure. Like, we got a lot of stuff going on. I don't think I'm going to go this year. She looks at me. She looks at my dad first. Then she looks at me and she goes, number one, I have access to your bank account, so I know how much money you have.
That's good.
And so she says, but if you don't want to spend money on it, it's not a cheap endeavor. I would never deprive your father, myself, or anyone around you the version of you that comes back from Burning Man.
Wow.
So we'll cover the whole thing.
Wow.
And honestly, I would never take a penny from that.
Right.
But just the fact that my 75-year-old Jewish spiritual mother, who knows what I do out there,
right?
She knows all the bad stuff. She knows all the good stuff. Is just like, I would never deprive me, your father, or any of your friends of the version of you that comes back, and we're willing to invest whatever 5-10 grand to ensure that we have that person for at least a few months.
Right.
Just goes to show like that it's not just me having a great time out there. It's everyone who comes back into contact with me
Reaps the benefits.
to enjoy whatever is emanating afterward.
Right. Beautiful. That aside, you said it before. You rather be with people than be alone. We're in your house right now. You've hosted many different events, and you have for the last decade. What is it about you, or that you desire, that allows people to manifest in your life that are aligned with who you are at every given stage?
I think I make people feel loved. And I do that by asking good questions and listening to them. I also don't expect anything from them. And so if someone doesn't answer a text back, or doesn't call me back, or like there's something in me where I don't take any offense to it. And I just like, there's just something in me, whether it's like, I just don't have all the information. And so, when someone's really like in a funk, I just get it. And I can like sit with them and I'm like, yeah, like, I think I'm pretty empathetic and I'm very vocal about it. When people are in a bad place, I learned this lesson the hard way. When people are in a bad place, sometimes they just need someone to be like, yeah, shit really sucks right now.
That's enough.
And I can get on their side. So that, I think not expecting stuff from people. Like even when I host events, like there's never, outside of like when David comes and speaks, like I could host like a 50, 100 person breakfast, and there would never be a moment where I'm like, hey, everyone, just wanted to welcome you all and let you know that this is why we're here, and this is my product, and this is what I need to pitch, and please donate here.
None of that.
I never do it.
Just come and enjoy.
Just come and connect, sit. I like to listen, and I follow up. Follow up is really big.
Most people don't do it.
Hey, no one follows up.
Yeah.
It's such a hidden hack.
Right.
Like really good follow up, and follow up for me is like when someone just like pops into my brain. It's like for me being like the light needs me to be like follow up with them. So, and then I do a lot of closed loop follow ups. So like a follow up could be like, hey, just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. That's a follow up. That's just like a staying relevant thing. Or a voice note, and the first thing is like no pressure to sync back. I just want to let you know I was thinking about you, right, and I love you, and here's a little update. And that
you're just there. You hold space for people.
Yeah.
In this generation, almost everybody from 18 to really 30, but on, are experiencing some form of anxiety, depression, and that's in part why we wanted to put this together. As somebody who I'm sure has gone through that at an early age and is now at a good place, what allowed you to get through that? And what would be your advice to somebody struggling with it?
Yeah. My cure for anxiety now is just when it comes, I wave the flag. I think for a long time I was just like, I felt guilty for being anxious.
Right.
And I was just on the phone with a friend of mine who's been a friend of mine for 12, 15 years. And, we talk maybe like once every 2 years. A very successful marketing executive at a major company. And, he came to me because, married, kids, and he's just feeling like really unfulfilled. An epic job, best in the business at what he does, but like something's just like wrong. And I noticed that he was just like, something's wrong. But, I'm so lucky because like, I have this wealth and I have this incredible family and I'm healthy and I'm still able to do all these athletic things. And he wouldn't just give himself, it's like, allow it. It sucks. Allow it. And so now when that happens with me, I just tell people, How are you?
Not great.
No, I'm really struggling. Wow. Or I'll go to like Ali and Jesse, who I live with, and I'll just be like, guys, like, I don't want to talk to you. Wow. I'm like really off. And then of course, they're great friends. So like, what, can we do anything? And I'm like, no, you can leave me alone for a while.
Right.
And like, I just noticed like that was the thing that I wasn't giving myself space for before. Like I wouldn't admit it. I wouldn't say, I would try to cover it up. Some people call it like spiritual bypassing.
Sure.
I kind of hate that term.
Yeah.
But that's what a lot of people like.
They fight it, right? They fight it. It's like this.
And like, I don't deserve to feel like shit. Right. No, you do. Like, this is coming from the light, receive it. The same way that you need to receive the good stuff, which, you know, a lot of times I refuse to receive. I refuse to receive, you know, love and affection and pleasure and money, and like, that's all stuff I'm still learning how to do too. I also need to receive, like, this too is coming from the light, because maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to, you know, come to grips with like, stuff is not always going to be good, and it's not always going to be explicable. That's the thing. It's like, there's no explanation for it's like this weird, like, covert thing.
Yeah. Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll definitely have you back on, and maybe we'll get more into relationships and things of that sort.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, Adam Greenfield, everybody, Thesis co-founder, check them out. It's helped Adam in his life. I sure as heck am going to try it as soon as we're off this episode. And we look forward to seeing you guys at episode number 11. Don't forget to like, comment, and share with your friends. We'll be back on soon. Thanks.